It's been a little bit since I've done one of these by myself. I'm trying to practice social distancing, so I've kept my frenemy away. But don't worry, guys. He's just one Skype call away, so we're going to get right back on it. And anyway, this is Alviso. And this is Alviso from like 3 or 4 weeks ago, before all of this coronavirus stuff. So don't you worry about that. I'm just catching up on some old footage that I have backlogged. I have a hard drive that is just like chock full of footage that you guys have sent in, old Alvisos. So I'm going to keep you guys entertained. And if you're happy about that, go ahead and drop a like on the video. Click subscribe if you haven't already. It will please the YouTube algorithm overlord that determines who sees this video and who doesn't. So anyway, enough intro. Let's just get right into it. All right. Super early on in the race. We're talking like first lap early on in the race. You can see in my rear camera, that is Big Tuna. He is wearing the leader's jersey. He's defending the leader's jersey. Yes, Alviso has a leader's jersey. It's pretty awesome. And he came out with, I want to say, like 4 or 5 of his FSB teammates. So he's wearing this Alviso kit, but he has teammates that have FSB written on their jerseys. And they came with the sole purpose of defending that jersey. So they were doing the team thing for sure, and I was aware of that. So here goes an attack by Dan. Immediately Tuna starts to cover it, and I'm going to start to chase this because I don't really want both those guys off the front. Every time you're on the front doing an effort like I am right now, there's got to be a good reason for it. In this case, you have Dan, who can ride really hard for a long time off the front, and then you have Tuna, who's joining him, who has a bunch of teammates in the back who are basically going to be neutralized. But then I start playing the game, and I want other people to work, but you see that Zach knows better, so he just goes right over the top once he sees that I've slowed down. And now it's that group off the front's even more threatening, because now there's Zach, who's one of the big threatening riders in this group, and there's Tuna, and there's Dan, and those 3 guys can just ride off into the sunset and never be seen again. So this needs to get reeled back in, and Tracy does this first effort on the front, and I can't play games like I did in my last video. This just needs to be squashed immediately. I need to stitch this back up. Fortunately for me, it coincided with this tailwind section, so it's really not too big of a deal to close this down, but I'm not going to play games like I did in the last Alviso video that you guys saw. I'm going to just keep this together. That was just a little bit too threatening. I have to close that one down before it gets the gap opens up too much. Okay, this is what I want to talk about today. Knowing when to use your efforts is such an important part of this sport. And if we're using the book of matches analogy, everyone starts their race with a full book of matches. Sure, if you're really fit, you might have 1 or 2 more matches in your book of matches, but the point is you only have so many that you can burn, and once they're gone, they're gone. Like, you can't just generate more energy from nothing. So the question is, how do you know when to burn a match and when to save a match for later? Well, here goes Zach trying his luck again on the right, and this is a really good example that I think illustrates this point. So right now I'm thinking I could probably chase Zach down, and I could burn a match or 2 in the process. But I also know that Big Tuna and Team FSB, they have also missed this solo bid by Zach. I know that they're going to defend the jersey, so they're definitely going to chase it back. So there's really no reason for me to burn that match, and I'm saving it for later. So just because you can doesn't mean you should, I guess is the takeaway there. You really have to gauge each situation and ask yourself if it's worth chasing it or not, or if you can sit back and kind of force somebody else to do it. And it seems like a lot to think about in the moment, but as you get more experience, it will just become second nature. Okay, so this is something you should always be thinking about. So let's apply that to this situation right here. This is about a lap later, maybe 2 laps later. You can see there's a rider dangling off the front, and same spot, same rider, there goes Zach again, trying his luck on the left. So this rider up the road isn't represented in any of the big teams that are in the field today. He's not an FSB rider, neither is Zach. So what do you guys think? Should I chase this one back? Well, no, just like last time, I'm going to put that burden on FSB because they missed it and they have an obligation to chase that back. I know they eventually will. And sure enough, there goes one of Tuna's teammates. So now I know that, okay, now I have to bring this one back because that one's threatening, right? Like, who else in the field is going to chase this back? It's kind of on me. Like, if I don't take this hard effort and bridge across, and everyone else kind of looks at each other, well, that's how breakaways become successful. That's how you miss breakaways. You have to identify those moments when you really do have the obligation to chase it back. And there's a couple of ways you can do it. Like, I could have sat on the front and done a pull at 375, instead I decided, because it was a tailwind section, I decided just to do a shorter, harder effort and kind of make the people behind me also do a shorter, harder effort and not just benefit from me just, 400 watts dragging it across for the next half a lap. Okay, this was a dynamic race. I'm going to stop here again with about 18.5 Ks to go. You can see Zach is about to do another ripper attack here on the right. He was so active today. There are a couple of riders up the road, and now I decide to go across with him, and there's a couple of things going on in my head right now. So this is the headwind, and there's something very enticing about following an attack in a headwind, because if you can get on that wheel like I have right here, then all of a sudden you benefit from this amazing draft. And also, Team FSB, they had been covering attacks like we just went through, a couple of them. They had been really active, doing a lot of work in the first half of this race. So I was kind of concerned that if Zach gets across to this group right here, FSB's just kind of run out of firepower, I felt like at this point. So I wanted to punish them for missing too many moves early on, and I wanted to jump across to this move, work with it. I could see it was already kind of falling apart by the time I'd gotten there, so I just attacked again. This is really common. You can see groups that get off the front, get a gap, have done the work, made the commitment to get a gap off the front, and then they're completely disorganized and nobody wants to take a pole. And to me, that's crazy, because you've devoted the energy to get the separation, and now you just have to start rotating and you have to start working. Like, there's no free ride. You have to just start working in the breakaway. So I just go over the top again, and I lock it. You see I lock it into like threshold type effort right here. The problem is I have brought Big Tuna himself, the race leader himself, with me. And also in his draft, it looks like it's Zach. So I have two strong guys with me. This could go the distance. I'm definitely willing to work with this. I check back right here. It looks like Zach's going to take a freebie. He was pretty active, so I'm going to give him a pass just this once. You hear that, Zach? Just this once, you get a pass on taking a pole right there. But I'm going to do some work on the front. Oh, I might be giving Zach the lip treatment right there. I'm not sure. We'll see if that plays in the audio. But this was a good move. This lasted a while, and I thought this was going to go the distance. But eventually we were caught. There were too many strong guys back in the field who were not happy with having missed the break. So this got brought back. And, I was tired from having been off the front for so long, but, so was everybody else from having chased. If you're tired, everyone else is too, and this is always a good opportunity to try another attack off the front, and that's what I did here. And did I think that this was going to work from 15 kilometers out? No, probably not. I've talked about this in my other videos. This is kind of my weakness. Not really good at this distance, but I'm able to control my effort when I'm riding off the front by myself like this, and I'm able to keep it within myself. I'm not having to respond to big surges, big attacks that might be flying off the front. And most importantly, the reason I wanted to show this clip is I get a lot of comments about racing on open roads and what do you guys do about traffic and cars, and here's a good example of that. So I come to a stop because this truck is in the way. And even though I'm off the front and I have a good gap, that's the way Alviso goes, Alviso giveth and Alviso taketh away. So here I am getting caught by that truck, basically, just jumping right back in, and that's the way it goes out here at Alviso. So we're always safe. Just wanted to kind of drive that point home, talk about it a lot in the comments, but here's a good example of that. Okay, so we had such an active first 2/3 of this race that I was kind of hoping in the last 9-10K here that I was just going to get a free ride and sit in the draft until the sprint finish. But Chris and Dan do a good job here. You can see them sneaking away, catching me out of position. And like I said before, those are two guys that work well together. They're both really strong, both real smart riders, and definitely going to have to chase that one back. So like before, I wait until the tailwind section, and then I do this effort. And in fact, there's a little bit of a crosswind during today's race, so that helps even a little bit more from the left to right here. So I do slide it over a little bit. I don't get too close to the gutter, but the idea is I'm not giving the people behind me a free ride, while at the same time making sure that I'm doing a hard enough effort to bring back both Chris and Dan, who opened up a really big gap like really quickly. So it was really threatening, and I didn't want to make the same mistake I did in the last video. I just have to close this down, even if it means doing this pretty hard effort on the front with just 3 laps to go. So that's what I do here. And you can see Zach is in my wheel. And yes, you can see them up the road now. I've taken a pretty considerable chunk out of their advantage. But with 8Ks to go, Can't mess around with those two guys. Definitely have to bring this back. But look at me now, 174 beats per minute. I'm looking for some help right here, trying to coax a pull out of Zach, who's on my wheel, and he obliges. He recognizes this danger too. He takes a pull. You can see behind us, it's just in ribbons. It's all in pieces. So this is a pretty critical moment of the race. We just have to make sure those two guys get brought back, even though, as both Zach and I are both trying to save as much of our legs as possible for the sprint, we just recognize that this has to be brought back. And I'm glad that Zach did that additional pull right there, because otherwise the games would have begun and we would have started attacking each other. Instead of it was kind of a friendly, okay, I'll take a pull, you take a pull, just to bring them back. Okay, it was relatively uneventful here, so we're closing in now with about a half a lap to go. And you can see what I've done is I have put Chris in this position where he's got to chase down. There's still a group of 3 off the front. And it's kind of interesting, really, because he's run out of teammates. So it's really up to him now to chase them back if he wants to keep that jersey. And the thing is, if he looks back too much and I think that group's going to get away, I'm just going to attack as hard as I can to try to jump across to that group if Chris is demonstrating that he's going to be unwilling or unable to do it. But actually what happens is Dan comes over the top and he takes the front here with less than 1K to go now. Dan takes the front and does this really hard effort. This is kind of Dan's thing. I think when Dan notices that it's not gonna be a breakaway, it's coming down to a field sprint. Dan's not necessarily a field sprinter, so he is just gonna get to the front and do a really hard effort to try to see if he can split it in the crosswind and or get a really good workout in. So you can see that's exactly what he does. I'm on Chris Fortuna's wheel here. We've closed down the gap to these 3 riders, and now I am just in like the perfect position, because not only is my position great for sprinting, Chris Fortuna's position is horrible for sprinting, who's in front of me. And I know that at this point he's just got to ride, because if he takes 1 second and looks back, I'm just going to attack as hard as I can. In this tailwind from here, 200 meters, it's go time, and I just jam it as hard as I can. I was super motivated by the fact that Chris had taken this jersey from me the last week, so I got up to some pretty good power numbers, especially after a difficult windy day. Happy with the sprint, happy with the fitness, and now I am sitting in my garage watching the season get postponed and canceled. Hang in there, guys. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Enjoy those trainer rides. And as always, thanks for watching.